All right, good morning, everybody. It is Sunday morning, the 21st of March, almost to church, which is so good. Couple things that were on my mind. One is today's national holiday. Second one is I've been getting several questions around probate and dealing with real estate in probate. So I'm going to kind of tackle both. So first, today's national holiday is Credit Card Debt Reduction Day. It's a real thing. You can Google it. Real thing. Best way to celebrate this holiday, make an extra credit card payment. Talking a little bit about that right now, I did a little research. The average American is holding $6,100 in credit card debt at any point in time. Think about that, $6,100, which is actually up, and that's in 2020, which is actually up from 2019 of $6,000. In 2018 at $5,900. So we're trending in the wrong direction there, guys. Trending in the wrong direction. Now, what does that mean? Let's go down to some brass tacks on that. Currently, the average interest rate on a credit card is 14.98%. Let's call it 15%, which also means that if you got that $6,100 in credit card debt, you're paying an average of just over $1,000 a year, about $1,050 per year in interest on that credit card debt, which is a huge amount of interest. Think about that, $1,000, and it looks small because we're talking about like $150 a month, so it doesn't feel big, but it's one of those things that's death by a thousand cuts. $1,000 a year could go towards your retirement fund. It could go towards kids' college funds. It could go towards a vacation. It could go towards any number of things. I mean, think about it. $1,000 could go towards any number of things that are not credit cards. Go figure. And what's worse is if you're considering putting it into some sort of a tax-free retirement vehicle, there's actually more than $1,000. It's closer to $1,200 or $1,300 depending on your tax bracket, right? Because you have to earn the money, pay taxes, then pay credit card interest, which is not a tax deduction. So today, again, guys, National Credit Card Reduction Day. Make an extra payment. Don't forget that if you put a charge on a credit card and you run that thing straight out, it is 44 payments to get rid of that initial balance, which is, again, just a ridiculous amount of money spent and given to people like Citi or Capital One, and they're winning, they're happy as American credit card debt keeps on going up. They're happy campers as American credit card debt keeps going up. I am not a happy camper. And again, not saying anything negative about credit cards themselves. I use them. I run every business expense through a credit card, specifically because I want the points, because I like points. Points are a good thing. But the best credit cards out there are, again, giving back 2% in points. The average credit card is charging 15% in interest. Huge difference. So guys, everybody, as soon as you're off this live, jump off this thing, make one extra credit card payment, knock that thing out. Second, I want to talk a little bit about probate. So this has come up in questions 5 or 6 times now, just in the last couple of months from past clients, which means to me that there are a lot of people that have it on their mind or might have to deal with it or are dealing with it. So there are a couple myths and a couple truths regarding probate when in regards specifically to real estate and homes. First off, probate is not a requirement to sell a home where the person has deceased, right? A lot of people feel like it's a requirement. We're required to go to probate court. It is not. Not only that, but it is avoidable. And we definitely want to avoid going to probate or going to probate court, whenever we can. Second, estate sales and probates are different, right? Estate sale is simply selling a home or assets in an estate. Probate is actually having to go to a court and having a judge assign somebody to be able to deal with those assets, including the home, get a valuation, get a real estate agent involved. Typically, there's a probate attorney involved, all of those wonderful things. Now, don't forget, every single time we add a name, like a probate attorney or a judge or any of that stuff, All it's doing is costing dollars to the estate. That's all that means, right? It's adding time, it's costing dollars, right? Because people need to be paid for their services, which is only fair. And by running that clock out, it's costing more dollars, again, to the estate. And I'll talk about that in a second as well. Third, probate itself is avoidable, okay? And there are a couple different ways to do that. I'll talk about that in a moment. Going back to the costs, here's why this is important, right? So let's say that there's no clear direction as to where that home goes, or let's say there's a dispute and we haven't set up the vehicles properly to avoid those disputes. So now we've got to get court involved, especially in these times where courts are running longer than normal. It could take up to 30 days, 45 days just to get in front of a probate judge, just to have the judge look at the evidence and say, hey, what are we going to do with this property, right? Now from there, the judge is going to order a valuation. Typically, they're going to get an appraisal done from a licensed appraiser. Sometimes, and depending on the judge, they'll ask a couple of real estate agents to do a valuation. A lot of real estate agents will do those valuations for no cost because a lot of the times they're looking at potentially getting that business, which is not a bad thing. If the judge orders a full appraisal, that's a $375 to $500 cost, depending on the appraisal and the property. So there's another cost to the estate, right? Third, once that's been sorted, then the property goes on the market just like a regular sale, right? All of the offers are submitted to the judge for review, and typically speaking, the judge will take the highest offer, which also does not necessarily mean in this market the best offer, and we'll talk about that as well. So that's a myth that I've heard about probate. It's not the first offer that's accepted, it's the highest offer. Now here's the problem with this specifically. In this market, it's not always the highest offer that nets the seller the most money, right? I'll say it again. It's not always the highest offer that nets the seller the most money. We are having some pretty big appraisal issues where appraisals are not coming in. Over half the time, they're not coming in supporting the value of the property, okay? Now, why then? And the reason for that is simply, and I know I talked about this before, but home values are rising so fast, appraisals are 3 to 5% behind them, right? Because with an appraiser's got to look at the history. They've got to look at the last 90 days to 150 days of what's sold. If home values are going up 1% per month, and the average property they're using is 120 days old, that sale, that's 4% different right there, right? And property values are going up about 1% per month. So just using a simple math, let's say it's a $200,000 house. Home values have gone up to 4%. The property value today is 208, but the appraisal will come out at 200. So if the judge has taken the highest bid, which they often do, because they believe it's the right thing to do, they're not being malicious in any way. By taking the highest bid, they could be leaving money on the table because when that appraisal comes in at 200, at that point, your property's been off the market for a little while, and then there's two options: either go back on the market, look for a different offer, or accept a lower appraisal, or negotiate to somewhere typically in between. A lot of versus taking an offer at, let's say, 206, but that buyer's guaranteeing the appraisal. The buyer will pay the difference in an appraised value and the sales price. The 206 is a much cleaner offer and will end up netting the seller more money. Because if you got to go back on the market, now in this market especially, there's a little bit of a stigma, and it'll be hard to get that same price again. I got a little bit off track. We're going back. Okay, we're getting it back. And then third is probate is avoidable. Oh, I forgot about that. So running all that time out, the 90 to 150 days that a typical probate takes, and don't forget, a probate can take up to or over a year, depending on how many people are filing claims on the dollars and the property and whatever the estate is holding, the bank accounts, all of it. I mean, probates can run out for literally, I've seen them run out for an entire year, which is egregious. But let's look at this from the flip point of view as well, right? If we're going a full year on probate, or even just let's say 4 months, and then add the cost of the appraisal to it, that's 4 months of taxes, 4 months of insurance, 4 months of payments the estate has to maintain if there's a mortgage, the cost of the appraisal, those couple $1,000 that I'm sure that person did not want the tax man or the judge, or not the judge, the tax man, or or courts or anything to get, they wanted their descendants to get, which is now no longer the case, right? So running this out just a little bit further, we can avoid probate essentially by doing two different things, because a will oftentimes in Michigan is not good enough because a will can be contested. Also, a will needs to be verified by a judge, right? Two basic ways to do this, and I will encourage you, because this is all attorney work and you want to get with your attorneys on this. Number one, having a revocable or irrevocable estate, having that set up, right? And once you have that estate set up, of course, you've got to fund it. And you fund it with the assets that you currently own. Ooh, that's bright. That is so bright. Which can be bank accounts or can be real estate, right? Any of those wonderful things. So what you want to do at that point is what's called a ladybird deed. Okay? I'm trying to stay out of the sun horizon here, so I don't have to put my sunglasses on. I'll put them on. There we go. Now, with a ladybird deed, specifically that deed, the reason why that's important is because it's a quick claim deed, but with a caveat. The caveat is it only goes into effect upon death, right? Now, the good thing, thanks, Kim, I appreciate it. She said my sunglasses are on my head. I wanted to keep my sunglasses off because I just wanted to there we go. I want everybody to see. There we go. That's right. I want people to feel like I'm looking at them and paying attention. Now, the ladybird deed, and what it does is it will take the what do you call it? The deed of the property, right? And then transfer it over whomever it might go to, children, whatever that looks like, upon death, so that they can get rid of the property without having to go anywhere, because there's no dispute as to where it goes, because the title of the property has already been transferred. So that's complete. Okay. Again, guys, super important to have these things set up. Frankly, not super costly to set them up either. So, and just doing a little bit of Googling, you can get an estate set up for anywhere from $500 to a couple $1,000s, just depending on what attorney you go to, what assets you have, all of those wonderful things, and those can always be changed anytime. So putting those two things together, today being National Debt Reduction Day, pay off those credit cards, save $1,000 a year in interest, plus get your estate set up and get your affairs in order, because you never know what happens in life. But here's one thing I do know: nobody walks around. Well, this is not true. I don't know this, but people, for the most part, I believe, don't walk around saying, "Hey, I can't wait till I die because then the tax man's going to take everything." No, I think what happens is people say, "I work really hard, and anything I have, I want to go to my children, my spouse, whatever that is. And I want as few of those dollars going to anybody else as possible." And again, guys, nobody plans on this stuff, and God forbid this stuff happens, but life does happen. And should it happen, you can take that credit card debt, that $6,000 that the average American has, pay it off, save that $1,000 a year, take that $1,000, hire a great estate planning attorney, get all of this in your life set up. And again, I've got mine set up. Should something happen, it will make it easier. It will settle disputes. I've seen families just get into it over dollars, over very few dollars, right? Avoid all of it. Have all this stuff preset, okay? Last couple of notations on probate. First one, probate also does not necessarily mean you're getting the property at a discount if you're a buyer. It could, but it generally doesn't mean that. If you're a seller and you have a property that may have to go through a probate of some sort, and again, nothing wrong with probate. It just the only difference is it takes a little while, and there are a couple more sign-offs by a judge. Do not fall prey to those investors, and I'm an investor. Do not fall prey to those investors that will come at you and say, "Hey, I'll tell you what, I'm going to make a cash offer on your property. I can wait as long as it takes to get this property. I'm a guaranteed buyer." How cool is that? Because those investors need to get properties 20 to 30, sometimes even 50% below actual value, right? It looks great on the surface because the investor comes in and says, "Hey, I'm gonna write you a check for cash. I'll even put it into an escrow account at a title company, whatever it takes to hold to hold a contract on this property. And then you guys go through the court system, do whatever you need to do, and I'll be here, and I'll be here for you. No, that's not the case at all. That's just somebody, that's an investor that's, and I don't want to say taking advantage of, because how they make their money, but that's an investor that's looking to get the property much lower than the market value. And again, going back to the point of, if you've got dollars, because I know I have a couple of dollars, right, that are tied up in property. I don't want those going to an outside investor. I don't want those going to the tax man. I want those going to my beneficiaries and heirs. Simple enough, right? So pay off a credit card debt, get your estate in order, and make it a great day, everybody. Happy Sunday.